Yo, what is up, guys? I am the Teen Republican. My name's Connor. We are joined today by Harrison, aka Proud Snowflake. He used to be Proud Snowflake. I don't know what his username is anymore.
Xi Jinping fan page.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. And then we're also joined by Russian Capitalist. But what's your name again? Russian Capitalist.
Hello, sorry, I couldn't hear anybody. Was anybody talking?
Oh yeah, you're good. We just wanted to know what your name was. Your real name.
I can't hear.
Can you not hear us?
No, I can hear you. I can't hear Republican.
Harrison, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't hear him.
That's a little weird then. Gonna hop out real quick and then we can readjust. Objections? Russian Capitalist, can you hear me?
He wants to know if you can just like leave and come back and see if that helps it.
Here, wait,
Leave,
Republican
leaving.
talk again?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
No, I can't. All right, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna come back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're just gonna wait on that. You can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Perfect. Awkward silence here. We got 39 viewers. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
All right.
All right, perfect. All right, so I will reintroduce everybody here. We are joined by Harrison, used to be Proud Snowflake, but share your username one more time.
Xi Jinping fan page.
All right, and then we are also joined by Russian Capitalist. Do you mind sharing your real name?
Hampton.
Hampton. All right. So I will let Proud Snowflake, because that's what I know you by, open up, do an opening statement first, maybe do a little bit more introduction. But yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll keep it pretty short and sweet. Capitalism is inherently exploitative, undemocratic, unsustainable, and decision-making is built primarily on what's profitable. Those are my main contentions.
Okay. Exploitive. How do you define exploitive?
So exploitation is the action or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work or to take advantage of one's vulnerability for one's own benefit. I feel that's pretty applicable to capitalism.
I wouldn't say so. The thing is with humans as us, we are not lobsters. We don't step on the backs of others to get what we want. We do it through exchange. If I want you to do something for me, I'm not going to force you into it. I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to say, hey, do this for me and I'll give you this in return. So we don't necessarily like do that. And I hope you realize there's a difference between exploitation and oppression. Like there's no exploitation. There can be bourgeois oppression. I acknowledge that, and the government's role should be to eliminate that. But corporatism exists, so no. But
Exploitation can be voluntary and mutually beneficial. So let's say I'm in the desert dying of dehydration. You come up to me and say, hey, I will give you some water to drink, but if you drink that water, you're in debt to me $1 million. That is both voluntarily and mutually beneficial, but it's obviously exploitative.
How is that exploitive? If
Because
you're getting
you're
something
taking
in
advantage
return,
of one's vulnerability.
So give me an instance where the workers are vulnerable.
If they don't take the job, they don't survive.
Well, they can just take the job somewhere else.
Okay, exactly. They have to sell their labor to a capitalist in order to survive.
Okay, so let's go off this notion. So if it's work or die, essentially, is what you're saying, correct?
Basically, yes.
Okay. Don't you think it's pretty neat and pretty voluntary how the workers can choose who they work for, what they do, how much they work for and how
I
long
don't
they
think
work?
it's very free to be able to choose which authoritarian you serve.
They're not authoritarian. How are they authoritarian?
The capitalist mode of production is inherently like highly centralized and authoritarian. The workers have almost
because
no
it's their
say.
business.
They have almost no say in the production of capitalism.
And where's the problem with that? It's not their business.
You're just reaffirming my point that it's authoritarian. The workers have no say.
Alrighty then.
I value democracy. I value decentralized planning. I don't like authoritarianism. Do you?
Well, see, the thing is, there's a difference between a private company and a government. Authoritarian government, yeah, big no-no. Authoritarian private company, I don't care because it's their company. They started it and they can do what they want with it.
Then you don't care about authoritarianism. You just want it in private hands. I don't
Like I
like
said,
authoritarianism in any instance.
only in the government is authoritarian bad.
The
Or
the government
authoritarianism is
are the
bad.
only ones who can be authoritarian. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying those are the ones that can't be. The corporations can have they do deserve the authority to over their workers, because their workers sign a contract essentially saying, hey, you're working for me now, so I get to say how much you, or not really say how much you get paid because they agree on it, but I get to say what you do and everything that goes into that.
Yeah,
Now,
it's private authoritarianism.
yes.
Both are bad. Why was
How is authoritarianism in
why
a
is
business
private
bad?
authoritarianism even any better than state authoritarianism?
Because it's not coercive. Private
What?
authoritarianism is not coercive.
I
Nobody's
think what
forcing you to
he's
work for.
Like I already said, if you don't take that job for a capitalist, you will die. You're going to end
Yes,
up on
I
the
know, but
street.
what you don't realize the virtues of the freedoms of who you work for, what you do, and how you do it, and
Okay,
how much you
so
get paid.
it's a
Are you
freedom
not
to
ignoring?
choose which authoritarian you serve. That is not freedom.
I think what he's trying to say is if I don't do something that like the government doesn't like, then I go to jail, right? But if I don't do something
Essentially,
that like a private business doesn't like, I can always just go find another business to work for. I think
yeah.
that's what he's
So
trying to say.
yeah, like basically, if I don't cooperate with the government, I'm gonna be thrown in jail. If I don't cooperate with a business, then nothing bad's gonna happen. I just simply leave. It's as simple as that.
All
And
I value democracy. So in socialism,
okay.
when you have the workers democratically deciding what is done in a workplace, it is an infinitely more fair and more just system. It's more democratic. Unless you don't care about democracy, I don't know why you wouldn't support it.
See, the thing is, I'm kind of like twisted on democracy, and I think it's unfair that the workers make call the shots of a business that, like, let's say I created. Like, why should I start a business just to have my workers control it? That's not fair. That is
Because
unjust.
having an authoritarian business structure is not good, and we shouldn't have that in society. We shouldn't allow that to exist.
See, that's where we disagree. You want a
Yeah, I don't like
democratic like workplace,
authoritarianism.
and I
You do.
want the businessman to have power over his workplace.
Yeah, you want the businessman to have total authority over his workers. I don't see why anyone would like that if they like the idea of democracy and
Well, there is.
decentralized
It's not
power.
total authority. That's the thing, though. If the
What
businessman,
say does a
so
worker have in the operation of Amazon?
no, I'm talking more on like wages. Essentially, like
Wait,
the
hold on. Okay.
okay,
Employees have almost no say in their wages because you're ignoring the existence of what we call the reserve army of labor. So in capitalism, you have a large source of workers who are unemployed and ready to take a job. If
okay,
workers get too pushy, you can just fire them and replace
okay. But
them
the
with one
thing
of the
is,
many unemployed
what you
people.
don't account for is how if those workers on reserve. You're not telling me how skilled they are, how efficient they are in their work. If the worker who is being pushy to his employee, as you say, and the employee is ready to fire them, but the person that is ready to replace that employee that's getting ready to be fired doesn't do as well of a job as the employee already in place, and will eventually in the future lose value for the company, they will want to keep the employee that is here now because that employee
I mean, not if the
is
employee.
creating a lot of value, which goes to the wages. If you're making lots of value for a company and the company wants to keep you because they see you as a very productive person and they see you creating lots of value for the company, they don't want you to go anywhere else because competition, right? So they'll pay you a higher wage to make sure you stay. And don't say
Again,
it
but
doesn't work like
if
that
they
because
don't,
it does.
if you are asking too much, they're not going to give you it when they know they can replace you rather easily.
So are we ignoring my point on skill and efficiency of the worker ready to replace him? It doesn't matter if they can be
Yeah, there's plenty
easily
of there's
replaced.
plenty of low skill jobs. I
Yes,
mean,
I
that's
know,
what
but
we're
no
talking about
business
in
is going to
terms of low
hire a low
wages.
skill worker because they're gonna first of all
No
low
business is going
productivity.
to hire a low skill worker. What?
How do you not see that? Like, if you start a business, you want the best
Low
workers because they
skilled
make lots
workers
of money
are
for you.
employed all the time. I mean,
Yeah, I know, because high skill workers are scarce basically. But those when you employ a low skill worker, You improve their skill over time. Not everything happens instantly.
Yeah,
And their
exactly. They're
their
low
wage is
skill. They
based
can be
according to
easily
their
replaced.
skill. I know, but the companies don't want the low skill worker.
Can someone flipping burgers be easily replaced?
Yes, depending on
Okay,
how well they.
how are they going to argue for better wages?
Depending on how like productive they are, like and how much they've increased their productivity and how well and efficient they do the job, and how much value they create for the company.
But again, burger flippers are easily replaceable.
But
they have no bargaining power for better wages. They just don't. They can be easily replaced. I don't know how you deny that.
I'm saying that it's the skill of a worker and how efficient they can do it determines their wage. If they realize that their value is worth more than what they're getting paid currently, they will go to their manager or whoever, and they'll ask a better wage. And if the employer refuses, they simply go to another company that will pay them better, based on what they're worth.
Okay, so how is someone making a subsistence wage meant to just up in their life and get a new job?
Like become more wealthy or get a new job?
No, if someone is living paycheck to paycheck, they're barely getting by. How can they up in their life, quit their job,
increase their productivity?
What?
Yeah, increase your productivity. That is how you become. That is how you increase your wealth. You increase your productivity.
So someone working at McDonald's who is barely getting by, how are they meant to increase their productivity?
Improve their skill, learn a new skill, work more. Those factors is what goes into like increasing your productivity. It's just making it's essentially like, if you want to dumb it down even more, it's just making you better. If you want to dumb it down that far, but yeah.
All right.
I would like to pose a question maybe to Proud Snowflake. Who would be the one enforcing that the workers have like the means of production? Who would be the body enforcing that?
What do you mean?
Like, who would be the body that would enforce that workers had more rights to their labor or stuff like,
like who uphold worker cooperatives?
Yeah.
I mean, the workers.
Right, or but like
I don't get
what if I don't want to mess with, what if I'm a business owner and I don't want to deal with them? Do I have the right to fire them?
I don't want any private ownership of the means of production.
You don't want any private ownership?
No.
Okay, so you want the government in control?
No, I didn't say that. I said I don't want private owners controlling.
So then who owns the means of production? Who owns it then? If it's not
the
private?
Workers.
So it's public.
Who's going to enforce that though?
Oh, so okay, I think I get what you're asking. Yeah, I would want the state to say, no, we can't have private ownership of the means.
So you're going to need an authoritarian leader to enforce that, at least in the beginning stages of socialism.
I mean, yeah, I don't think we should allow that to exist.
But you're so against authoritarianism, yet you need one to enforce your system. Yeah, because
capitalism is authoritarian and it requires a state to get rid of it.
But if capitalism is so authoritarian, why is the basic principle of capitalism voluntary exchange? Like, that's not coercive at all.
Again, sure, maybe voluntary exchange between commodities and you can choose what you buy, but there's no say in what is produced.
I mean,
the laborers have no say in what is produced. It's not really that free.
Well, because it's not their company. That's the thing. It's a private company.
You see, you're justifying it. You're not explaining why it's
what am I justifying?
Good or bad. You're justifying authoritarianism and
okay. So we'll put it in terms of authoritarianism.
It's their business.
Well, it is. Now the connotation that the word authoritarian has been given is the reason why I'm avoiding saying directly coming to like the conclusion of, oh yeah, authoritarianism is good because reality, I hate it, but like I said earlier, in the government, if the government's authoritarian, then yes, I will hate it. But in the private businesses, they should have full authority of how their business is run, and nobody. You should not. It's unjust to start a business just to have your workers have a say in how it runs. That's unjust and unfair, you know.
So, do you not think capitalism requires authoritarianism to continue?
Like in what sense? Like through the government or the businesses? Who enforces
private property rights?
Like who protects it or who enforces it?
Yeah, who protects private property rights?
Well, if we're talking in the sense of government, well, yes, they make a law.
The police,
enforce
the
private
state.
Property. See, the thing is, police will be privatized.
Boy. Privatized police. Wow. That worked out really well in the Gilded Age, didn't it? The Pinkertons, you like them?
Okay, let's move on. No, we just the people, the businessmen, they have guns, right? They enforce it, and the government creates a law saying if you violate their private property rights, if you violate their individual rights, if you infringe on them, then we'll come in and say, you're in trouble, basically. And that should be same to all systems. Of course, every system is going to have some form of authority. If not, then it's just anarchy.
There we go. You just prove again. I don't know why this conversation started.
Socialism isn't authoritarianism, because if you say it isn't, then it's anarchy.
I think the state should serve to protect the citizens' rights.
So then that's authoritarianism, because somebody needs to enforce it. How is Okay, wait. So two things. One, if you want the state to protect your rights, that's essentially what you're saying. The same thing about capitalism. You said the state is needed to protect private property rights, and you're saying the same thing about socialism. Socialism, the state needs to protect your rights. So that's authoritarianism, because we agreed on the thing with capitalism. So
yeah,
you're kind of contradicting yourself here.
I think the state has a role to play in protecting our citizens, right, and helping sort of secure rights.
Protect rights.
Yeah, I don't think the workers should be subjugated to private capital owners. That is inherently amoral, and I think the government should stop that. Just like slavery, slavery is inherently amoral, and the government should stop that.
Where's there slavery in modern day America?
Oh man, it's actually funny you bring that up, considering carceral slavery is a thing, and private corporations use prisoners as slave labor.
Oh, you're talking about private prisons?
No, not even private prisons. Government prisons use carceral slavery.
Okay, so you're saying government prisons. How does that have to do with capitalism?
Well, okay, again, this is sort of unrelated, but you brought up, where does slavery exist in the U.S.? Wage slavery is still a thing, yeah.
Okay, wage slavery is
I'm just quoting Frederick Douglass, man.
Look, I think wage slavery, the term itself, is just contradictory. Can you agree that slavery is you're forced to work without pay? Can we agree on that?
Well, okay, what slavery is one person being owned by another. When you are paid a wage, you are effectively selling yourself to a capitalist.
You're not selling yourself, you're selling your labor, your expertise.
Exactly. You're selling your labor to a capitalist.
You still exist as an individual, as a human being. The businessman who you're selling your labor to doesn't have any control over your personal life, any control over how you live. They just have control over your labor, how it's allocated.
Yeah, you sell your labor to a capitalist, and now a capitalist has full control over your labor and how you operate in a capitalist environment. Yeah.
Not how you operate, how your labor is allocated throughout the company.
Yes.
Okay, that's not slavery. That's literally just selling your labor. And if it was slavery, why is the worker getting a wage in return? That's not slavery, and it's voluntary too. You get to, like I said.
Notice how I said wage slavery? It's part of it. Yeah, this is the whole concept of wage slavery. Is that you work for a subsistence wage, and you have effectively sold yourself to a capitalist because you have no say in the operation of the business.
You don't sell yourself to a capitalist. You sell your labor to a capitalist. They're
analogous. They're one and the same.
No, do you agree that you as an individual are different from your labor? Like your labor, like your skill is not you. It does not define you.
I mean, that's what they value at a capitalist business is your labor.
Okay, but that's not you as a person, is it? So you're not selling yourself. You're selling your labor, and your labor is not you. It's like you sell your labor to a capitalist, and then you have no say in. Okay, well, you technically do have a say. You can agree on on your wage, on your times, or what you do and how you do it. But that's like depending on that varies between business, obviously. But you're just talking about like the 1%, how the 1% essentially, quote unquote, how you say, controls the workers, when in reality, I mean, oppression, yeah, it's bad. Bourgeois oppression is just bad, but they don't control their workers. If their workers don't like...
You're a capitalist, but you're against bourgeois oppression? What does that mean?
I'm gonna pose a question. Okay. I'm gonna pose a question to Hampton here. Do you think there should be any regulation on private property at all?
No.
Okay, let's get into that. No regulation, really. Even the good stuff.
Like what is good regulation?
The EPA and the Clean Air Act.
Okay, have you not heard of the Kuznets curve?
What about it?
It's a hypothesis showing once a country hits a peak. What is it? I'm trying to remember. Hits a peak, like peaks its GDP. So imagine like a curve, right? And at the top of the curve is the country's peak GDP. When the country reaches its peak GDP, in between from the start to the top of that curve, yes, the country is going to be very polluted because it's industrializing. But once you reach that top and you start rolling down the rest of the curve, the companies are going to realize, hey, we need to protect the environment if we're going to make any more money. The government's are basically like that.
I get the Kuznets curve.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, this is completely irrelevant to capitalism. You can have rapid industrialization in non-capitalist nations.
Yes,
and
I know.
You can accelerate the Kuznets curve if it is verifiable, which it hasn't been verified. You can accelerate with subsidies, which you are against. But I want to get back to regulation because the Clean Air Act, regulations under it saved 240,000 lives. They led to lower rates of lung and heart disease, 2.4 million fewer cases of asthma. Why on earth would you get rid of that?
Okay. Why does the corporations, or why does the government, oh my God, excuse me. Why does the government have a say in how the corporations like do their stuff? If the corporations make a product that harms its citizens, nobody's going to buy from it.
Do you know what an externality is?
No, educate
me. An externality is the cost of a transaction that is not felt by the private business owner. That's how we get the Clean Air Act that actually saves lives and money, because it accounts for externalities.
How does that save money?
Because when pollution happens, people get sick. That costs the country money.
Okay.
Yeah, with those regulations, we save money and lives.
Okay.
And then, so I would pose a question to Harrison there. Where do you draw the line when it comes to regulation?
Well, the thing is, regulation can be incredibly beneficial and very productive, but a lot of time, capital influences regulation to suit their own profit. So I think we need to remove the capital influence of regulation, and then I'm fine with a lot of it.
So you're saying that the big corporations basically have control over the regulations?
Yeah, that happens in a capitalist system.
Do you realize the solution to that, the capitalist solution to that, is just not giving the government power to let that
I know.
happen
It's completely ridiculous. They look at the good regulation and then just say, let's scrap it. When really, that's not why we get bad regulation. We get bad regulation because of capitalists. So why not remove the capital influence?
Oh, you're talking, okay, the 1%, all right, or the big corporations, basically, are you talking about like monopolies, or do you want to go into monopolies too, or?
I mean, yeah, lobbying can enforce monopolies. It can price out competition. There's a lot of things it can do, but ultimately, those are bad regulations that are caused by capitalism.
I know the corporations, they go to the government and say, hey, give us exclusive rights to do this, like regulations, like regulate all the smaller companies. It prevents them from growing, and it just accelerates the big corporations, and it lets them do what they want.
That's a product of capitalism.
That's not a product of capitalism. That's crony capitalism.
How'd they get that much wealth?
What
system allowed them to get that much wealth?
Capitalism.
Exactly.
Okay, what system allowed the cronyism? Not capitalism. Crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is not capitalism. It is a form of capitalism.
It is capitalism. That's how they got that much wealth.
It's a form of capitalism.
If they didn't have capitalism is a system that allowed them to get so much wealth and power that they can lobby the government.
No, the cronyism, the corporatism allowed that to happen. Not
symptom.
capitalism itself.
It's
Capitalism got them the wealth. When they got the wealth, basically they exploited the power of the government, saying, "Hey, give us exclusive rights so we can do it."
This is something I said in my opening statement. Decision making under capitalism built upon what's profitable. These companies want to maximize their profit, and they do that through regulation.
Okay, so we remove the power of the government to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and get rid of the good regulation. It's ridiculous. Why would you want to get rid of the Clean Air Act and the EPA?
Okay, fine. Let's keep the Clean Air Act, and let's get rid of all the other regulation. Like that, let's just suppose we keep just that. Are you fine with that?
You're giving the government the power to regulate. That opens the door for cronyism.
Just the air, and that's where.
Didn't you say you didn't want to give the government the power to do that? Are you backing off of that?
No, the power to decide how the companies should be run.
What?
Like regulation. It's like let's take like a car. You have to have this certain component in the car, but this company doesn't. And that's with the regulation on the smaller companies, forcing them to move their company a certain way, and not do it the most efficient way if it isn't.
I don't really get what you're saying, but I want to bring up something you said before, that you said if private businesses didn't do something the consumers liked, that, you know, they would go out of business.
I mean, that was really vague, but yeah, on the broad,
That was your
most broad
point?
scale. That wasn't my point. That was really vague. I hope you realize
Okay, well,
that.
if you could reiterate what you meant by that, then that'd be nice.
So let's say a company, let's say Tesla makes a self-driving car, makes it kill everyone, or has like this stuff within it that kills everyone. Once the market realizes, you know, big no, they're gonna stop buying from that. They're essentially just gonna boycott it.
Do you own
Tesla's
an Apple product?
What?
Do you own an Apple product?
Yes.
Oh, so you agree with slave labor?
Slave labor. And
That's a pretty strong
slave
man
labor.
argument.
Oh, it's not a straw man.
Where?
Apple routinely uses slave labor in the production of their phones. In China and Africa, that's how we get our iPhones, through slave labor. Of course, we still buy these even though we disagree with the
Okay,
practice.
can you give me sources proving that points, please? Can you like put it in the chat?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Here you go.
Okay, well, I'm reading this. You want to continue?
Yeah, my point in bringing this up was that really there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. These companies will really do whatever they want in order to get cheaper, like, commodities, and we will buy it.
Oh, you're bringing up the Uyghur thing. Oh, that thing. It was like the what is it, like was it like an ethnic group that was like forced to do like this like slave labor?
The Uyghur slaves are being used by capitalist companies. Apple is one of them.
Are you sure? Because I looked it up and it was Chinese authorities who were enforcing that. When you brought it up in a when we were like doing a small little debate in a comment section, you brought it up and I looked it up, and I just found an article talking about how it was Chinese authorities doing that. So,
well, it's probably collusion by both China and the capitalist companies, but importantly, slave labor is going into the production of items which you and me own.
Okay, so with your logic, just sell your iPhone, so you won't have to participate in the slave labor.
Again, but my opinion is that there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so it's not much we can do.
So how is socialism ethical?
Why would there be slave labor in an enterprise where the employees own it?
In order to get to the point where the employees own it, though, something has to take place where you are stripped of your private property, which is a right, you know, John Locke liked to talk about.
I mean, in the 1860s, slaves were considered private property.
Okay, well, obviously, that's infringing upon one's autonomy. It shouldn't be okay. And
yeah, I agree.
We agree on that. Okay, so if I have my own property, in order to get to where the workers own everything, someone has to come and take it, infringing upon my autonomy.
Yeah, in the 1860s, we took people slaves.
Right, but you can't infringe on one's autonomy.
Why can't we infringe on people's property rights when it's oppressive?
It's not what?
Well, it's almost, again, I laid out how capitalism is exploitive and oppressive, and it doesn't benefit the workers. So yeah, it's not in a hierarchy we should preserve.
Right, but I own my
capitalism own... doesn't benefit. I'll let you guys
go back at it.
In what sense? Like no benefits?
Oh yeah,
are you saying the workers get nothing in return for their labor?
I didn't say that. I said they don't benefit from it. If you look at worker engagement and worker satisfaction, it's abysmal.
Okay, but there's lots of things that can factor into that.
Yeah, like they hate their jobs because they, you know, have no say in it.
I know if they hate their job, then
yeah, worker cooperatives have way higher rates of employee satisfaction and worker engagement.
Yeah, and I know you're the first. I was looking back on your debate with Ben. You are the first socialist that I've ever seen to bring up worker co-ops. So I was not prepared for that. So
worker co-ops are great. I can go more into that.
I mean, I don't. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing I can really debate on because I haven't educated myself on it. So,
what are the things from my opening statement I'd like to bring up? Oh, unsustainable. Do you think capitalism requires constant market growth?
like, what do you mean by that?
So, the market requires constant growth. Is that something? I mean, it's a pretty basic principle.
Yeah, I guess so.
Do we live in a world of finite resources?
Like, no.
We don't live in a world of finite resources.
Hold on, I'm sorry. What do you mean? Sorry, what does that mean again?
See, markets require constant growth, yet we live in a world of finite resources. It is unsustainable. Markets are unsustainable.
So then, how does socialism sustain that?
Because in socialism, you don't require constant economic growth.
Hold on. Sorry, I just don't know what you mean.
Okay, so
I'm just confused.
in a market setting, what happens when you don't have growth? Like
The economic downturn.
exactly, you need constant growth in capitalism. That cannot be done in a world with finite resources.
Wait, what does finite resources mean? Sorry,
I
my
mean,
English is...
oil, water, all these are finite. Drinking water,
Okay.
cobalt, lots of resources are finite. Pretty much all of them.
Okay, so what about like wealth?
What do you
Capitalism
mean wealth?
can generate, like, capitalism can generate like an infinite amount of wealth, basically. I mean, if you're talking about the future
fiat currency
with those finite resources, capitalists want to do the best to conserve and
I mean,
what were you gonna
money
say?
is technically not a finite resource, so yeah,
How exactly?
you can just print more of it.
I know, but that makes it less valuable.
Yeah, but it's not finite. Finite means you'll run out of it.
So, like, in what sense? Like, if you fail in a business, you run out of money, or what do you mean? That's what is.
When I was
You're
talking,
leaving it up to interpretation.
finite is more down to natural resources. Stuff like money, which can be printed at like that, that's not a finite resource.
I know, but it can be
And money's not really yeah, you're kind of missing the point. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about like natural resources that are going to be used to pursue constant market growth. They're eventually going to run out.
So that's why we use alternatives like solar, electric, nuclear, all of those, more sustainable, or how do I word it? I can't think of another word to reword it, but do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, that's the point. We have to move away from those, but don't think capitalism really get us there.
I mean, we're on our way to. I mean,
who's the biggest investor in green tech? It's the state.
Okay. This really isn't going anywhere. Do you want to move somewhere else? On to the next topic.
Do you have any other arguments for support capitalism? Because we've really been talking about like my opening statement, but like, what are some of the reasons you support it?
Economic freedom is basically the main reason. The freedom to act, do, judge, and live by your own ideals.
I mean, unless
the freedom to have ideas, the freedom to create, the freedom to improve your skills and benefit off of it.
Again, so what do you mean by economic freedom? Like a complete lack of regulation? Because you said that you said at the beginning, workers don't have a say in their workplace. That's not freedom.
Do you know what economic freedom is?
I have a very loose idea of it, yeah.
Economic freedom, I guess I can put into an example. It's like you have a business and the government just stays the hell out of it. You get to run it how you want to run it. It's economic freedom. The freedom to pursue your interests.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
How is
private business doing exactly as they want? Yeah, that's kind of terrifying.
I know. Right now I'm talking about the individual pursuing their interests.
We're talking about capitalism.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, private individuals operate businesses and do as they please.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. As I
I
brought up,
mean,
they would, how are you going to prevent externalities like pollution?
they will.
Oh, another a great example of externalities. Do you know what the Ford Pinto was?
Yeah, no, I don't.
It was a car produced by Ford, and it had a fatal flaw of if you hit the back of it really, really hard, it would burst in flames. Ford knew this, however, they saw that the cost to repair it would be less or would be more than the cost of the lives lost, so they decided not to do it.
Wouldn't it be voluntary to buy that vehicle or get rid of your vehicle?
Yeah, but no, they didn't tell anyone. It had to be, it had
So
to come
that's a
out.
risk the market that's a risk that the market is going to take.
Exactly. How do you prevent that? Obviously, we should prevent that. They need
I mean,
regulation to prevent that.
nothing is guaranteed.
If you
Like
have regulation, you can stop stuff like that. If you have
okay,
completely
well,
if you have completely
if this is
deregulated,
infringing, if it's infringing, if sorry, if like a business creates a product or something, or if the business does something to infringe on another's rights, then yes, that's where the government steps in.
I thought you didn't support the government stepping in.
By stepping in as in regulating how how a business should be run. I mean, the government, the instance where the government should step in is if it infringes on somebody else's rights, like private property and individual freedoms and rights. That's where the government should step in because it's their job to. That's their only job in a true capitalist society.
So, so you do support infringes on economic freedom in some instances.
Where it infringes on another's rights, yeah.
So, like, what's an example of a regulation that doesn't protect people's rights right now? Like, what about workman's comp?
What?
What about workman's compensation? That's a regulation. If you get injured on the job, you have to be provided compensation. That's a regulation. You get rid of that.
How would the business be infringing on their rights if the worker gets injured? Now, it depends how the worker gets injured. Is the worker doing it like, how did the worker get injured? Like, did the business do something to like contribute to that, or did the worker do it out of own
There's a lot
stupidity?
of reasons, but the main thing is to protect workers. So if there is dangerous conditions, they do get compensation, and to
Yes, I know, but
dissuade
the workers are
capitalists from,
voluntarily putting themselves in that position, and they know the risk that comes with it.
because they voluntarily got the job, that excuses terrible working conditions that could injure employees.
I didn't say it excuses it. I'm saying that they're putting themselves in harm's way for it, and they knowingly did it. And if they don't want to, then they simply get another job, or you know what I mean.
I mean, I think I get what you're trying to say, but
Okay.
yeah.
Do you want to move on to the labor theory of value?
I mean, sure. What do you wait? What do you think the labor theory of value is?
If I'm not mistaken, it's the like labor put into a product determines its price, correct? Or determines its value.
Yeah, the amount of socially necessary labor that goes into a commodity determines its value.
Yeah. See, the thing is, like pre-industrial revolution, yeah, it'd be correct. But value, because pre-industrial revolution, everything was hard, intensive labor. You know, like that determined the value. But now, as things are more efficient, it's more of value being subjective. Like one man's trash is another man's treasure, essentially.
I mean, there's empirical data from today that suggests that the labor theory of value is indeed correct.
And how do they prove that?
If you look at the labor input of goods, it is strongly correlated to the market value.
Because maybe, or are you talking about the cost of the labor or the materials that the labor like puts into the product?
We're talking the labor input and the market output. So
Can you give me an example?
what do you mean?
Like an
The
example.
I'll dumb it down as much as I can. The amount of time, the labor time put into a good is strongly correlated to the price of that good.
I mean, that's not necessarily true. You can spend 10 hours making a watch and it would be worth nothing to the market.
Like I said, it's socially necessary labor. If that watch is socially necessary, yeah, it will have value.
Okay. But it depends. It varies to who it's necessary for. Like, it's necessary for you or me or whoever else. It depends
I mean,
on who's
Marx
creating those prices.
acknowledged the existence of use values. Like different things have different use value, but the actual value, the inherent value, is dependent on the socially necessary labor that goes into it.
Okay, but what gives something an inherent value? Like under communism, there's no money,
Labor,
right? So
labor gives things inherent value.
So labor just measures the value. So people's needs or people's wants and needs just doesn't matter.
What has value that doesn't have labor put into it?
Wait, you said what?
What has value that doesn't have labor put into it?
Water, land, minerals.
No, those require no labor to exist. In order to commodify them, yeah, that takes labor, but those to exist.
Yes, I know, but land, let's take land. It doesn't require labor. So according to the labor theory of value, land isn't worth anything, which in reality, it is worth a lot. Like you find a plot of land with lots of oil in it. Of course, it's going to be worth a lot, but there's no labor put into it. So labor theory of value just says it's not worth anything.
Land has become a commodity. So yeah, it would have a labor value.
Okay, but I'm talking about in a communist society.
Well, in a communist society, there would be no like commodified land.
I know. I'm talking about the value of the land. It doesn't matter if it's commodified or not.
It wouldn't be a commodity. The labor theory of value talks about commodities.
I mean, anything can technically be a commodity. You don't have to count it as a commodity.
No, anything cannot be a commodity. A commodity has to fill a social need. Okay. Like if I build mud pies, that's not a commodity because it doesn't fill a social need.
Okay.
Were there any other questions between you guys? Anybody?
I'm trying to think of a question. So you said capitalism is coercive, correct?
Yes, it is.
So are you implying that, and you say it's work or die, right?
Yeah.
Is that just not the case with socialism? Can you not work and still be provided for?
Well, in socialism, you are working for yourself. You're not selling your labor to a capitalist, so it's infinitely less coercive. But ultimately, really all society is coercive because we have laws that people abide by, and if you break those laws, it's under the threat of violence.
Okay, so you said if it's work or die, and you said are you implying that like the threat of death makes like capitalism coercive?
No, it's what it is it's sell your labor to a capitalist or die.
Yes, I know. And who is the one who's forcing you to work though? Is it the threat of death or a boot from above?
You have to subjugate yourself to poverty and death.
No, answer my question. Who is enforcing who is enforcing you selling your labor? Because you don't have to sell your labor to anybody.
The threat of homelessness, poverty, and death. That is what is forcing you.
Okay. So can the same thing be said about socialism? If you don't work for yourself, you are at the hands of hunger, death, and whatever else you said. I forgot.
Yeah, you have to work, but again, you're misunderstanding the hierarchy.
So the thing is with socialism, it's just work or die.
You don't have to sell your labor to a capitalist. You own your labor.
Yes, I know, but it's still work or die under socialism. It's work to provide for yourself under socialism, correct?
Yeah, all society is somewhat coercive, but socialism is infinitely less coercive because you're not selling your labor to a capitalist in order to survive.
If it's infinitely less coercive, why did you just say it is coercive?
What do you mean?
Like if it's infinitely less coercive, that isn't that implying that it's just not coercive at all? Because infinite, you know?
you'd have to work to provide for yourself, but again, you're not selling your labor.
You still do the same thing in capitalism. Just the thing is, somebody benefits off your labor.
Criticism.
How am I misunderstanding it?
Is that people have to sell their labor to a capitalist in order to survive. Not that people have to work. I'm fine with people working, but I would much rather that work be done in a worker cooperative where every worker owns the means of production, not in selling their labor to a capitalist.
Why is selling your labor to a capitalist a bad thing?
Oh my God, dude! We just spent like the first debate.
I have a question.
No, we were talking about your opening statement.
Why is that bad?
Never mind.
Workers are not suited. They don't function good in that environment. They have extremely low worker satisfaction and worker engagement.
How do you measure that? You just go to a worker and you say, "Hey, are you happy?"
Yeah, that's
How
how
do you
polls
measure?
work.
Okay. And you expect it to be better in socialism.
Do you think there's a numerical measurement for how satisfied a worker is?
I
Oh
mean,
wait,
not
we
really.
do.
It's
Worker productivity, which is also higher in worker cooperatives.
worker productivity is like how efficient you can do it and how well you can do it. Now you're bringing in emotions to productivity.
Yeah, they're more happy, they're more productive.
Okay, how does
It's a win-win.
because somebody's more productive doesn't mean they're happy.
Okay,
You
guess
realize
what?
that, right?
We have both metrics to say that they are both more productive and happier.
Yes, I know, but that doesn't always correlate. It can be that way, but it's not always
Yeah, that's
true
true.
for
That's
everyone.
true. You can have very productive slaves, and they're obviously not that happy.
Okay. Fuck, dude, I was gonna go somewhere. I forgot what I was gonna say.
I would like to pose a question. One more. Who makes sure that a worker cooperative like stands on its feet? Like, who makes sure that it succeeds?
What do you mean?
Like, if I don't want to work for the worker cooperative or work for myself, then who makes sure that there's like enough resources to survive?
If you don't want to work for a cooperative, what do you mean?
Like, who makes sure that it sustains itself? That
Workers, they operate it.
right, but what if they don't want to?
Why would the workers not want to enforce their own cooperative?
I don't know. What if they don't want to?
You're not explaining why they would do that. This is ridiculous. Why would a worker not want their own business to succeed?
Who wants to work? I mean, come on now.
People value work, and they just hate working under capitalism. Work is where we derive a great pleasure and a need.
Right. But what about if I just don't want to work?
What did I miss? Sorry, I did do something.
Oh, okay. So basically, I just asked, who is going to enforce that the worker cooperative can sustain itself? Like, if I don't want to work, what's stopping it from like?
Yeah, wouldn't there need to be a
cooperative.
hierarchy to ensure that all workers stay productive?
If you don't want to work, leave the cooperative.
What happens when all the productive people leave?
Why would the productive people leave?
Or what happens when like the majority leave?
Why would the majority leave?
Because I don't know. It could be for any reason.
Well, again, under cooperatives, workers are paid better. They're more satisfied.
I know, but it's not a stable income. You're not
There's less
guaranteed
employee turnover, so why would they leave?
You're literally not. You're not. What's your? You're not like guaranteed a steady wage. And if they're and under like under a business, not a cooperative, if the business goes under, the workers serve no financial loss. They can just go to the next business. The businessman suffers all the loss. He invested everything into that business and he lost everything. What did the workers lose? Just their job, and then go get a new one.
Yeah, that's how capitalism functions.
Yes, I know, but if it fails under a cooperative, everybody's at a loss. It's not financially stable because there has to be a constant source of. There has to be a constant.
What do you mean they aren't financially stable? They are more stable.
Then how are you guaranteed a steady wage? Because everybody has to produce something. The thing is with the businessman isn't guaranteed a wage until the product is sold. The workers are guaranteed a wage. They show up and they get paid.
Okay,
and the businessman doesn't. The workers come first. But the thing is with the worker co-ops, everybody comes first. So nobody's guaranteed a steady wage because you need to sell the product to get a wage.
Okay, this whole thing about stable wages, I don't know why you're bringing this up because cooperatives exist and those workers get stable wages. And if you want to bring up like growth and sustainability, they're more sustainable. If you look at 5-year closure rates, the 5-year closure rate of a worker cooperative is only 10%. 90%.
So why doesn't every business just do this? Why doesn't everyone just do this then? If it's so effective and so efficient.
Because the market right now doesn't really value them.
Okay.
It's more profitable for capitalists to be capitalists.
Right. Sorry, I don't know what to say. what else could we go about?
Maybe to end on, because we are at 50 minutes, so it's just gonna go for about an hour. End on the morality of each system that you advocate for.
Yeah, I mean, maybe my main contention with capitalism is the idea that workers have poverty and death over their head, and they have to work for a cap. Granted, they can choose the capitalist, but they have to sell their labor to a capitalist in order to survive. That is deeply immoral.
Okay. How capitalism is moral? It's moral because you get to pursue your interests. You have the freedom to have ideas. You have the freedom to work and to make yourself into something greater. Sorry, I had a paper written down on this and I can't find it. So I'm just going off the top of my head. I can't really think of it right now.
Okay, whoever is saying worker cooperatives are capitalists in the chat, you're a moron. I hope you know it. Worker cooperatives are not capitalist because it's not private property; it's collective property.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with co-ops.
Right, but they are voluntarily becoming a worker co-op. In your society, you need a government to turn everything into a worker co-op, which would turn private property into, what was that, cooperative property or something?
Collective property, yeah.
Collective property, okay. So where that's immoral is that you have a government body coming and taking my stuff and giving it to.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the government ending immoral practices.
So
wait.
You don't have, okay, but we don't like govern based on morality. Like technically doing drugs or drinking alcohol.
We don't govern based on morality, what?
But we do have a little bit, but like as long as you're not infringing upon another person's autonomy, we don't govern based on morality. Like drinking alcohol or doing drugs is technically immoral, but I don't
think that's immoral. Well, I mean, all morals are subjective, so. But typically, what we want legal is what we find moral.
So is the government just trying to objectify morality? Because if they're making it a standard across everybody?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the government sort of saying you can't have private ownership of the means of production because of how immoral it is and how much it infringes upon the rights of workers.
Okay. Honestly, I should have prepared for this debate. Fuck. So where do we go from here?
Was everything hashed out? You guys think, or do you guys have any more questions?
I mean, I don't have anything more to talk about.
I mean, if I prepared more, I definitely would have more to talk about. What are like some things politically we could agree on?
The Democratic Party is dumb.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys both want the like abolition of the state?
No, I'm not an ANCAP. Ew.
I do support the abolition of the state in the future, but it's
I mean,
not really
I hate the
smart
state
right
with
now.
all my heart. I will always hate the state, but I don't want the abolition of it.
Okay, so you kind of both despise the state. But.
Yeah, I think leftists and capitalists can agree that fuck the state is a very common term among both sides.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I will probably end the broadcast, but thank you guys for coming on, and thank you everyone who joined. It was a great debate. So yeah, thank you guys.
Alrighty.